here's the thing. There's a story broken. I read about it. I read it on the show yesterday that the Russians were funneling millions of dollars into Hillary Clinton's, what it was, the Clinton Foundation. And during this time, Clinton was Secretary of State, and she approved the sale of 20% of our uranium supplies to Putin. The thing is that what the Hill is now reporting is the FBI knew and reported it to the Justice Department, and so the Obama administration knew. That means Eric Holder knew. That means Robert Mueller, who was the FBI head, knew. He's now the special prosecutor investigating Trump, and they didn't do anything about it. They hid this. It really is disturbing. It seems like they covered it up. What is the media covering? They're covering whether Donald Trump said something untoward when he made a condolence call to a Gold Star family. I mean, this story is trash. It is a trash story, and I'm gonna cover it a little just to show you why it's trash, but also to show you why it's so bad that the media is like seething in its own hatred. You know, there was a poll recently that says something like 46%, was it? I think it was 46% of people now believe that the media is making up stories about Trump. They're making up stories about Trump. And the reason they believe that is because the media is making up stories about Donald Trump. They believe it because it's true. And the thing is, the trick that they use is they take everything he says, and they just give it the worst possible spin. And it never occurs to anybody to say, just parse that for me. What exactly were you saying? Did you say, as they now say, that Obama never called Gold Star families, or did you mean that, you don't always call Gold Star families, but they don't do that. They purposely don't clear it up. And now this Florida Congresswoman, Frederica Wilson, this is a woman who has been calling for Trump's impeachment since the first day he was in office and predicting he's going to be impeached and saying he must be impeached. She's that person, okay? She just hates the guy. And so she says Donald Trump called the parents of Sergeant LaDavid Johnson, who was one of the 4 Army guys who were killed in this Niger ambush. They're out there fighting Boko Haram, just one of the worst Islamist groups ever. I mean, I like the fact that every one of these groups has a different name, but they're all Islamist groups, okay? So he called and he said something insensitive. Here she is just reaming him. This is on MSNBC, but she has been everywhere, CNN too.
He was almost like joking. He said, well, I guess you knew something to the fact that he knew what he was getting into when he signed up, but I guess it hurts anyway. Just matter-of-factly, that this is what happens. Anyone who is signing up for military duty is signing up to die. And that's the way we interpreted it. And it was horrible. It was insensitive. It was absolutely crazy and unnecessary.
Now, is there really, with this Russia story, with a wonderful story out of the EPA that they have stopped this con man practice they had of suing, of having people sue? It was called sue and settle. They would sue a state for something it was doing, and then they'd settle so that the EPA would get even more power in the settlement. And then the EPA would say, well, we can't do anything because we've made this settlement, so we have to follow these rules. They've ended that practice. It was an absolute con game that the EPA was running. Donald Trump said to the parents, he signed on for this. He knew what he was signing on for, but I guess it really hurts anyway. First of all, maybe that's not the most articulate thing to say. Okay, I'll grant you that. He's not the most articulate guy. But what is he? Does anybody think that Donald Trump has no feeling for the military? I mean, this is the guy. Remember how Obama would have Marines hold an umbrella over him, stand there holding an umbrella over them as if they were the butler? Remember how Donald Trump, when the Marines' hat blew off, the president of the United States, Trump, went and retrieved his hat and put it back on his head twice, right? I mean, does anybody think that this is a guy who doesn't care about the military? Obama gutted the military. Trump is trying to build the military back up. So he said, I know he signed up for this, but I guess it hurts anyway. In other words, every soldier knows when he takes this job that he is risking his life, but when it happens, it is still awful. That's obviously what he was saying. That is obviously what he was saying. And how is this? So really, Sarah Huckabee Sanders, the White House spokeswoman, she said everything that has to be said about this.
I think it is appalling what the Congresswoman has done and the way that she's politicized this issue and the way that she is trying to make this about something that it isn't. This was a president who loves our country very much, who has the greatest level of respect for men and women in the uniform, and wanted to call and offer condolences to the family. And I think to try to create something from that the Congresswoman is doing is frankly appalling and disgusting.
So let's just cut off the crazy left for a minute, because I know we love to concentrate on the crazy left because they're so crazy, and you have to concentrate on them because they will eat their way into the heart of American society if you don't stop them. But still, just cut those people off. Let's say that's 10, 15% of the people. The rest of the people, if they took a breath, if they calmed down for a minute, would anyone believe, maybe if you're further left you are, the more you hate Donald Trump, you might say, wow, this guy's an oaf. Maybe this guy can't even speak. He can't speak right now. But does anybody really believe that this is a big news story, that this is something that needs to be politicized, that the grief that these people, these parents of our heroes, the guys who are out there fighting to keep us free, the grief they must feel, I'm sure there's nothing a president can say that is going to make anything, make it any better. Does that really have to become a news story? So she's politicizing this thing. The Congresswoman is politicizing this thing. And Trump says, go ask John Kelly, the general who's now his chief of staff. Go ask John Kelly about his son, because his son was killed in Afghanistan, Robert. And Donald Trump made a very beautiful speech on Memorial Day at Arlington National Cemetery and talked about how he grieved with John Kelly and all this stuff. But Obama never called John Kelly, apparently. And Trump talked about that on Fox Radio.
I think I've called every family of somebody that's died, and it's the hardest call to make, and I said it very loud and clear yesterday. The hardest thing for me to do is do that. Now, as far as other representatives, I don't know. I mean, you could ask General Kelly, did he get a call from Obama? You could ask other people. I don't know what Obama's policy was. I write letters, and I also call.
So okay, I have to play this, right? So they have this woman Frederica, Wilson on. She's on every station. She's politicizing this phone call. She's making a big deal of it. She's calling the Niger killings Trump's Benghazi. No evidence of anything like this at all. We don't know anything really about it. Needs to be investigated. We need to find out more about it. But to call it Trump's Benghazi is absurd and ridiculous. I don't even know why that has to fill up airspace. So now Trump says this about John Kelly. And here's Joe Scarborough. Joe Scarborough does the thing saying, the media shouldn't be covering this. We have to cover important things like health care and all this. So we have to cover this. But while we're talking about it, and then he says this.
Do you think, Mika, if we have to talk about what's happened over the past several days on this story, I think it would make more sense to talk about what the president did to the chief of staff and his wife and their daughter-in-law and their grandchildren and their family when the president dragged their son into the limelight for a cheap political shot in a talk radio show. So used his son's dead body to attack Barack Obama and, by extension, other predecessors. If there's going to be a discussion, I think that's the discussion to be had. Exactly what is John Kelly's response to the President of the United States doing something that no president with any shred of humanity would ever consider doing?
So he brings up John Kelly defending himself, and he has no shred of humanity. But nobody's going to even question. Only a woman from the BBC, that Katty Kay, questioned Congresswoman Wilson about what she's doing, about whether she was politicizing anything. It is all the doubles. It's beyond double standard. It's just hate. It is just hate. And all the news that's not being covered while they talk about this is the point. All the scandals that are coming out from the Obama administration, the real story about Comey and how he basically was drafting a letter in May before he had even talked to Hillary Clinton. He was drafting a letter in May exonerating Hillary Clinton. These are the news stories, and these are the things that are not being covered. Why does it matter? Why do I keep picking on the press? Why aren't I getting into the substantive issues? It's because I think the press is at the heart of what is happening in this country. This is a divided country, but we're not a divided people. We're not a divided people. When you see the hurricanes hit down south, you didn't see people knocking on doors saying, are you a Democrat or a Republican? Because I want to figure out whether to save you or not. I want to figure out whether to bring my boat from the next state over and row over. You got to be of the same party. You didn't see that. You didn't see people saying, are you black? Are you white? When people were risking their lives in the Vegas shooting, you didn't see people asking what political party you were from. You didn't see people. Only the press is selling this, and they're selling it because they're Democrats, and they're selling it for political purposes. They know they're setting a narrative. They're setting a narrative, and the narrative is that there is the Democrat side, gay marriage, government health care, all these things, and the other side is hatred. Let me just show you. Let's just to go back in time for a minute. Remember, Barack Obama was evolving in his feelings about gay marriage. And this is an issue that I truly doesn't matter to me one way or the other. I don't think I'm always for more freedom. Let people do whatever they want. If that can be done, let people do whatever they want, and we'll deal with the problems as they come up. But Barack Obama didn't feel that he could say this. 2008, this is what he was saying. Do we have that cut? Yes, 2008 is number 17.
I believe that marriage is the union between a man and a woman. Now, for me as a Christian, it's also a sacred union. God's in the mix.
Okay, so it's a sacred union. God is in the mix. It's gay marriage is not a good thing. Now, California then had Proposition 8, remember, that said there should not be gay marriage. They voted for it. It won handily and was struck down by the court, which said you have no right to pass your own laws. We are the court. We will pass the laws for you. Keith Olbermann, then working for MSNBC, comes on and he makes this speech about that vote.
To me, this vote is horrible. Horrible. Because this isn't about yelling, and this isn't about politics. This is about the human heart. And if that sounds corny, so be it. If you voted for this proposition, or you support those who did, or the sentiment they expressed, I have some questions, because truly, I do not understand. Why does this matter to you? What is it to you? In a time of impermanence and fly-by-night relationships, these people over here want the same chance at permanence and happiness that is your option. They don't want to deny you yours. They don't want to take anything away from you. They want what you want, a chance to be a little less alone in the world.
So if you agree with this, or if you agree with the sentiments behind it, you're a horrible person who just wants gay people to be alone in the world, but not Barack Obama. But Barack Obama, this is 2008, same year that Obama was saying these things, is before he evolved, right? But not Barack Obama. If everyone who voted for this was hateful, why wasn't Barack Obama hateful? They are selling you a bill of goods. They're selling you these lies. They're setting up. I always say, when you argue with leftists, you should never talk about people. Don't talk about Trump. Don't talk about Obama. Talk about principles. Talk about principles, because when you go after them on principles, they cannot argue with you. When you go, since all people do bad things, you get into these stupid arguments. Well, he did this and he did that. So, they are feeding the division that is really, endangering our polity. It's endangering the country. It is causing us to treat each other badly. And it's all of it generating from this hateful, churning with hate press that is spewing its hate onto us and toxifying our conversation.